Yeah, well, and that is hard, and a lot of people, a lot of employees kind of start out that way because they don't feel confident in making those decisions. And then a lot of times I've observed a lot of business owners, whether or not they consciously or subconsciously do it, particularly smaller companies where there's only a couple of people and the owner has been used to doing kind of everything and handling everything and being responsible for everything, even though you consciously want to kind of hand over the reins, subconsciously sometimes that's harder. So I don't know if that's the case or not the case, but it's just something I've observed over the years that could be an issue. I think that, having huddles, daily huddles is a big deal. Even if it's just a couple of you, I think that huddle is important because it's an opportunity and a place for techs to kind of bring up what issues they have. You can provide feedback, and hopefully that kind of sets the tone for the day, and they can kind of move forward. If since they're a new employee, there's kind of that feeling out period, and probably, if there were more people on your team, those kinds of questions wouldn't be coming to you, they'd be coming to somebody else on your team, so you'd be somewhat shielded from that. But unfortunately, you're in a situation where you're having to take all of those kinds of questions and calls. I think another thing, and I think I've mentioned this to you in the past, Chris, on some of our calls, that The Great Game of Business is a book, and it's about the idea of having your employees become more and think more like business owners. And it's an interesting book. I've read it a number of times actually over the years. And it really is about kind of gamifying the idea or the metrics, the financial piece behind your business. So, turning some of the kind of high level profitability and cost metrics or cost line items in your books into metrics and kind of sharing that with employees. And some companies will share their entire P&L. Most share some sort of a subset of their P&L that kind of removes a lot of the, particularly the payroll and some of those kinds of costs. But by doing that and kind of following that methodology, you can hopefully pull employees into that line of thinking, that they're thinking about the costs that go into the business, and it's not just, hey, my boss, drives a nice car and lives in a nice house, and wow, we're billing $150 or $175 an hour, so my boss is making a fortune. They understand that there's rent and there's healthcare costs and there's insurance costs and internet costs and phone costs and all of the other things that kind of go along with running the business. They become more in touch with that piece of the business, and so hopefully start to think about that. And I've had some pretty good luck with that. I mean, we use that. We brought that into our business. So my MSP, when I sold in 2013, we were about 85 employees, and I think we brought that Great Game of Business methodology into the business when we were probably 40 employees or 35 employees, something like that. And we would have monthly meetings where we would go over the financials as a group over kind of a lunch meeting type of a thing. We'd buy pizza and have people either in the meeting or dialed in so that they could watch. We did it in sort of a presentation kind of a format, and then opened it up for questions. And part of the presentation is also a kind of a training thing, like teaching something about the finances of the business. So talking about, hey, we're getting ready to renew our E&O insurance. E&O protects us from any mistakes we make, and yada yada, and the prices are going up because of all the cyber attacks and so on and so forth. So you would build into each one of those monthly meetings kind of a training piece, and so employees would become more and more trained and understanding of kind of underlying parts of the business. And it wasn't mandatory, so you didn't have to participate, and I would say we had about 65% of our employees that would participate. And some would participate, half the time, and half the time they wouldn't. But, and then others were very engaged and involved. And the nice thing about those people those are typically the ones that kind of moved up into more senior kind of management roles because they were more interested in how the business operated and so forth. So, I mean, I think all of those things can work together to help empower your employees and make them more like business owners, which in the end is kind of what we want in most cases.